It is Monday here in the sports room. Thank you for joining us. This is the sports show that actually talks about sports. Darius Biggen Matthews is out today. Not sure why, but just couldn't make it in today. So me and Derek flying solo, flying duo today.
Ghosted us.
He didn't.
He told us he couldn't.
He told us he couldn't come, and it's okay. He's permitted a day off every once in a while, I guess. It is Monday after the championship weekend in the NFL. One game a blowout, one game a really good game. Other than the games, Derek, how was your weekend?
Other than the games, my weekend was it was okay. I got food poisoning, which was the negative. But
you got food poisoning.
I did get food poisoning.
Over under how many pounds did you lose? Over under 2.5 pounds.
Under. Yeah,
you just Ralphed everywhere.
Got it out real quick. Sorry, got it out real quick, and then the next day I was eating at Cafe Rio, so we're good.
So you feel fine now?
I'm good.
What gave it to you?
Pizza from what I think is pizza or the Caesar salad from the New York Pizza Patrol and
out there in
Draper by Harmon's.
I ate there once. I thought it was aight. Apparently not.
Don't get the meat lovers.
Is that what you got?
Unless you love seeing it again.
Is that what you got?
That is what I got.
Unless you love seeing it again.
How was your weekend?
Weekend was good. Nothing really that exciting happened. I started a new job today, and I have no idea what I'm doing.
It's an accounting job.
It's an accounting job. I graduated in economics, and it is an accounting job. And to be fair to me, I told them before, I was like, I don't know anything about accounting. Like, I took Accounting 200, which was like entry-level accounting. And so I don't know if I'm not going to know anything. If you're going to hire me, then you got to like train me well. And they hired me anyway, and
he didn't take that into account.
Ding. Okay. No, they did not take that into account. All right. Big weekend in the NFL. We got plenty to talk about. Breaking news today, Jason Kidd has been fired from the Bucs. We'll hit on that a little bit later. Also, Rockets beat the Warriors this weekend, and the Cavaliers continue to get blown out by everybody they play. But first, Tom Brady, the GOAT. I'll say this. I didn't watch a lot of the first half. When I first checked the score, it was 14-3, Jags. And even still, when it was like that, in my mind, I was like, well, the Patriots are going to win anyway. I never doubted, really, that the Patriots were going to win. Especially when they were going into the fourth quarter only down by 10. I mean, they came back from 25 in the Super Bowl last year. And so it's not like coming back as this completely new thing to them. However, comeback was real. Jags played a pretty good game. Blake Bortles played about as good as you can expect them to play, and it still wasn't enough to dethrone the Patriots.
It looked like in the second half, the Jags were just hoping to see zeros on that clock. Like they were just waiting. And granted, the Patriots defense was really stepping up, but I was with you, Bo. When it was 20-10 in the fourth quarter, it was that same feeling you have when you're watching Alabama play. You're just like, yeah, they're going to win. I don't know why they're going to win.
It's the same sort of dominance. You know what I mean? It's like you just always expect them to win, and when they don't win, it's like this huge failure. I don't know what happened to Jacksonville's defense in the second half. They were playing great the first half. They were getting after Brady. They had a couple sacks in the first half. Fumbles, forced a couple turnovers. I don't know what happened in the second half. They just looked like they got tight, tentative, weren't being as aggressive. They kind of lost the swagger that got them there, it seemed like to me. And it came back to bite them. I thought that when Miles Jack stripped Dion Lewis on that throwback screen, I don't remember how much time was left, but it was the fourth quarter. When he stripped him on that play, that was the one time when I thought maybe it's just not in the cards for the Pats today. That was the one time I let myself think for a moment that the Patriots might lose to Jacksonville on their home field in the AFC Championship. That was the one time I was like, oh, maybe. And that was quickly diminished by realizing that the Jags had no shot at moving the ball.
The two defining things in this game for me, well, one of them is defining and one of them is just interesting. The defining moment of this game for me is when Miles Jack strips Dion Lewis, just like you mentioned, and they blow the whistle dead. He picks up the ball and he's running, and they blow the whistle dead, and they review it, and they call it a fumble. If they did not blow that play dead,
6.
That's a touchdown.
Scoop and score.
That is a touchdown, and this game is over. So, to be honest with you, I don't think the Jags, other than kind of hoping the clock would just end eventually, I don't think they did that much wrong. I mean, you're playing against Tom Brady, who's the greatest quarterback of all time. That's going to be tough. But that strip, that was a touchdown. That would have been 27-10 in the fourth quarter with like 14 minutes left. And I don't think the Patriots come back from that. I mean, they could have. Who knows? But that was the defining moment of that game. Because even though the Jaguars got the football back, the Patriots got it back in a minute. So, in my opinion, that play should not be called. I am a huge advocate for letting the play finish out and then calling the play. Like, let him run all the way for a touchdown and then signal that you want him down. Can they do that? Can they signal like he was down here, we think he was touched, but we let the play finish out?
Sure, absolutely. That's 100%
Why can't you let that play? Why do you have to blow the play dead?
Could not agree with you more, because if you just let it go, that can be overturned. You can go back and look, okay, he was actually touched right here, which means he's down right here.
And I don't want to hear
but
that
if you just let him go, then you're getting the actual result of the play. And that was huge.
Because I don't want them to be like stopping the play and thinking like I was pretty confident. Obviously, you weren't pretty confident because you were wrong. So there's no way you could have been like, this is 100% right. So they got to let that play finish out, because you review that play, and I think that's a touchdown. It's 27-10 Jacksonville. The second thing, the only other thing that I was going to say was super interesting that the Pats had one penalty the entire game for 10 yards. The last time a team got one penalty, 2011. The Pats in the playoffs. That's unbelievable.
Because I'm just looking at the box score right here, and listen to this. They were equal. The teams were equal in first downs. They each had 22 first downs. The Jaguars were better on third down than the Patriots were. They ran 10 more plays. They had 35 minutes of possession compared to 24 for New England. Okay, they outgained New England by 30 yards. The yards per play was 5.3. Okay, Bortles was only 20 yards short of matching Brady in passing. They outrushed New England. They rushed for 101. New England only 46. Okay, and Jacksonville had 0 turnovers. And so, if I had told you that, if I had read you that box, if I had read Doug Marrone that box score, said this is what the box score will end up being at the end of the game. You don't know if you win or lose, but do you want this box score? He would have said absolutely. Mashed them first downs, outgained them, outrushed them. No turnovers. Take that every day. We had the ball more. Take that every day. The only stat that has this really big glaring difference besides the rushing yards is the penalties. Okay, Jacksonville had 6 penalties for 98 yards, and like you said, New England had 1 for 10. And I've always been one of, especially in basketball, when people complain about the refs, how they didn't get as many calls as the other team, I usually say, well, maybe they just didn't foul you as much. In basketball, that's nearly a moot argument now. And it's even more moot in football, because there are penalties on every play. Every play you could call a penalty. The fact of the matter, there's only 4 refs out there, or 5, or however many they are. The point is there's not 22 refs. You can't have one person watching one player at a time. So they're going to miss calls. That discrepancy is huge. Huge. To only call 1 penalty on a team in an NFL game, that's ridiculous. It's like that's like if you played an NBA game and got called for like 3 fouls. It's like there just are way more than that. And if you look at a number that small, it's not because they weren't holding or because they weren't interfering or roughing the passer or all kinds of whatever penalty. It's because they just weren't being called. And I'm not saying there's some kind of conspiracy going on here. I've never been a conspiracy theorist, but
Did you see the picture of the referee smiling?
Yes, I did.
The New England
That's
Patriots
what I mean,
scoring the touchdown.
I'm not a conspiracy theorist, okay? But it's pretty clear. I mean, before the game, the NFL knew that if you had Bortles versus Foles or Keenum in the Super Bowl, ratings, okay, just the fact that Tom Brady's in the Super Bowl will bump the ratings. They knew that. The same thing happens in college sports whenever you have your conference refs. They know who's supposed to win the game. The refs knew who's supposed to win that game. I'm not saying that they did it blatantly, but if you look at the numbers, it's pretty clear.
And I think the worst call of all is that fumble. Not calling that fumble, not letting him run it all the way back. That was, in my opinion, worse than any penalty makeups could ever do.
In Jacksonville's defense, it's difficult to sustain drives against a good defense like that. And what was happening, especially in the second half and the fourth quarter, was they were getting called for pass interference 40 yards down the field. Like, they just chuck it up down there. They'd have two guys on him. One guy would interfere, and they'd call pass interference, which is a 40-yard penalty, depending on it's a spot foul. And so it's like
one on Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, one on Jalen Ramsey. They called one on AJ.
Let that go. That's the AFC Championship. That was weak.
Yeah, and so that's what I mean. It's like they normally would have had to matriculate the ball down the field, and instead they got it in chunk yardage and penalties. Nevertheless, Jacksonville's defense did fall apart. I mean, Brady converted a 3rd and 18 on the game-winning drive, I'm pretty sure. You can't. That's inexcusable. It just really is. No matter what the refs are calling, you had him at 3rd and 18, dead to rights, and you let him get a pass over the middle to the smallest guy on the field. And so, at a certain point, it's like, you know what? It's just your fault. You just got out of your game. Bortles lost confidence. They really stopped up on the run game, especially when they needed to at the end. And the Patriots deserve to win.
Last thing about this is when, after the game, I got so tired of hearing the reporters asking Tom Brady about his hand. He said, there was one where she's like, oh, your hand playing through that. And he said, I've been through worse. I've played through worse. It's no big deal. Like, just glad our team came together and won, whatever he said. And I'm like, if it was no big deal, why did you tell us when they asked you,
why did you go stand up at the podium and act like a little girl?
Will you be playing on Sunday? And you said, we'll see. Like, really?
This is a point that I like to make with LeBron, that I make with LeBron a lot. Athletic careers generally there's two phases to an athletic career. The first part, you're experiencing, like you get to the playoffs for the first time, you make it to the finals or the Super Bowl for the first time, and then the second half of your career, the latter portion is you accomplish, where you win MVPs, where you win Super Bowls, where you win, all kinds of stuff. That's when you accomplish. You start out experiencing, and then the second half of your career you accomplish. That's how Michael Jordan did it. That's how LeBron's been doing it. Lots of, Peyton Manning was like that. Brady has just accomplished his whole career. From the season that he starting, he won the Super Bowl. And since then has just been nothing but accomplishing. And I think we overlook a little bit how big of a drama queen he kind of is. The way he, I like listening to him. I think he usually says some insightful things, like in his press conferences and stuff. But this whole thing with the hand, I don't know. We'll see. Are you gonna play? We'll see. How's your hand? I don't want to talk about it. It's like, dude, you're 40. You're a 40-year-old man. Where's the Mike Gundy sound when I need it? Here you go.
I'm a man. I'm 40.
Okay, you're a man. You are 40. Okay, you just got to step up and just say, are you gonna play? Yeah, I'm gonna play. Anyway, that was the end of that game. Obviously, the Patriots come back from 10 points down in the fourth quarter, moving on to the Super Bowl. Their 10th Super Bowl appearance as a franchise. Tom Brady seeking his 6th Super Bowl, which would be his own record for the most from a starting quarterback. In the other semifinal, the game that I thought would also be a good game, did not end up being so. The Fighting Nick Foles of Philadelphia coming through in the clutch and saving Philadelphia fans from the pit of misery, defeating the Vikings 38-7.
Going from the Minnesota Miracle to the colossal collapse. What was that? After Case Keenum threw that pick six, the game was over.
To the Philadelphia fake.
Right. That was disappointing. I wanted Minnesota to go play on their home field, and I was rooting for them, but that was just disappointing. I wish New Orleans would have won. New Orleans would have put up a way better fight, I feel like.
How good was Nick Foles, though?
Nick Foles was
26 for 33, 352, 3 touchdowns, a perfect QBR, only sacked 1 time. I mean, what can you say? This is a guy who he had a Pro Bowl season in 2013, has been a nomad in the league since. He and Case Keenum were on the same team in St. Louis when the Rams were still in St. Louis. His career was done, basically, as a starter anyway. He was done. He comes in, plays all right. People start to doubt. Everyone starts doubting the Eagles. No way they get out of the first round. Can't beat Minnesota. Minnesota's defense is too good. And this guy just has performed. He's just performed. And the Patriots defense is going to be the worst defense that he's going to have seen this playoffs when he gets there. And so what can you say about Nick Foles, about the resiliency of a guy like that to fight back in his career and believe in himself? And I think his teammates have really rallied around him as well. But, boy, that sure was an impressive performance from him.
It was. Nick Foles played absolutely incredible. How would you feel to be Carson Wentz right now? This is curious. How do you feel if you're Carson Wentz? You played amazing. MVP caliber season. Great year. Second year in the league. Just absolutely dominating. You go out with a season-ending injury, and your backup quarterback is taking your team all the way to the Super Bowl, which is great. But if you're Carson Wentz, how are you feeling? What are you thinking? Are you thinking,
really
wow, maybe
question.
I'm not as good as I thought, or wow, maybe I didn't impact the team like I thought I did, or are you just stoked to be there because you're not playing? There's got to be a little bit of like, I don't know.
It's a really interesting question because obviously he was MVP caliber this entire year. You know, he before he got hurt was the hands down favorite, I think, to win the MVP. And I think a lot of people attributed the success of the Eagles to him solely. And you kind of ignored the fact that they have a great defense, especially a great defensive line, and a great run-blocking offensive line. Okay, they had 30 carries for 110 yards yesterday, almost 4 yards a carry. And you kind of overlooked those things because Carson Wentz was shining so bright. And if you're him, I mean, obviously you're excited, you're happy for your boys, they're going to the Super Bowl. He's obviously going to be there on the sideline still, but I don't know. I mean,
is there? This is my question. Is there part of you that this is going to sound like devil's advocate to the max, but is there a part of you that kind of hopes they can't do it so that you know that if they had me in there, we would have won that game? Or are you just... Is he a humble guy that's rooting for Nick Foles?
I feel like he's probably pretty down to earth.
I don't think there's a question. I think we all know he's the quarterback of the future, not Nick Foles.
Absolutely.
So I don't think he has that to worry about. But I mean, there's got to be a little bit of like, oh, I got this ring, but I didn't play in the Super Bowl. I helped get him there, but I got this ring, but I didn't play. Like Tom Brady, you think if he had 6 rings but sat out for one of the Super Bowls, would be stoked on that Super Bowl? I really don't think he would.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. Interesting question. Carson Wentz. I mean, you can't.
Let's get him in here. We'll ask him.
Done. Yeah, let's get Carson. Can someone get Carson Wentz on the phone? Excuse me, Mr. Wentz. No, but just such an impressive performance from Philadelphia's offense. They had 4 guys with over 60 receiving yards, and two guys with receiving touchdowns. Alshon Jeffrey had 2. He played great. LeGarrette Blount had a rushing touchdown as well, and the defense came to play.
Talk about defensive adjustment. The first drive, the Vikings scored that touchdown, and from then on, they adjusted. They shut them down.
They did. And we've talked a lot about the Jags defense. We've talked a lot about the Vikings defense, but we did not talk nearly enough about the Eagles defense. And they have been just... they played Atlanta in the divisional round of the playoffs, who was a really hot team, one of the hottest offenses coming in. Okay, shut them down. Now they played Minnesota, not a great offense, but a good team, and blew them out. And so I think we're undervaluing the Eagles a little bit, and they've really embraced that underdog role. All the guys wearing the dog masks. I think that's hilarious.
And they're going to be the underdog.
Did you see the video of the guy chasing the train and getting drilled? Funny. Oh my gosh, dude. I couldn't stop watching it.
Did you see that? They came out with a second.
20
they came out with another view of it today. The back end of it. He was running. It shows him running, and he gets hit, and then he hits his head on the train.
Oh, does he really?
Yeah, it's even worse.
I couldn't stop watching it. I could not stop watching it. I was watching it and just kept laughing. Oh my gosh, dude, that was so funny. Philadelphia, what a great city. Have you been to Philadelphia?
I've not.
Been to Philly. It's like the birthplace of our country, man. There's so many cool things there. Rocky Steps, Constitution Hall, where the Constitution was signed, Liberty Bell. Dude, it's a great city.
Crazy fans.
I feel good for them, too. I mean, the depression that you had to experience with Carson Wentz getting hurt, the Phillies sucked, and the Sixers have sucked forever. Finally, like, halfway decent now, and now they get this team going to the Super Bowl. I'm just happy for Philadelphia people, even though they're pretty they're rough around the edges out
there. If
they
lose, though, I mean, they're back score one.
So both of these games now leave a lot of interesting questions surrounding the teams. So for the Jags, it's what do you do with Bortles? You got a great young defense, with the exception really of Calais Campbell, who's pretty old, but everybody else in the defense is young. Jalen Ramsey's second year, Miles Jack same, or maybe he might be his third year. Dante Fowler's young, he's a pass rusher. Went to Florida, that's why I know. But what do you do with Blake Bortles? So you're Tom Coughlin, Derek. You have this decision. You have Blake Bortles, who played really good. I mean, he played good in both the games. He played good against Pittsburgh. He played really good against Pittsburgh and played as good as you would have expected him to play last night. You still lost the game, but he played well. So if you're Tom Coughlin, you're the one calling the shots, making this decision, what would you do?
I go away from Bortles. Bortles played great, and he deserved everything he got this year. I was happy for him to silence a lot of his haters, which was a lot of his haters. But I think that there's quarterbacks out there that you could get that could help you be a Super Bowl team. Alex Smith could be one. Perhaps Nick Foles could be another one. But I do think that there are quarterbacks that are better than Bortles that in that type of a situation where they're playing the Patriots could have gotten some first downs to win that game.
Absolutely. I felt so bad for Bortles this year. And if he knew how that people were pulling for him out of sympathy, I bet he would have hated that. But that's what I was doing. I wanted him to succeed because I felt that he was so unfairly treated. Not that he was playing so good, because he wasn't. He was not playing well at all. But this was a guy you're talking about in preseason. Before the season even started, they're talking about cutting him. And the whole season they're talking about releasing him, trading him. They're talking about who they're going to bring in as his replacement when the season's over. All the while he's still out there playing and winning. Okay, the Jags went 10-6. That's a good record. And even with a great defense, I mean, very rarely in the history of the game has there been a defense so good that can win 10 games on its own. You're talking about the 06 Bears, the 85 Bears, the 2000 Ravens, and the 2002 Buccaneers, maybe. Those are the only ones. And so he played really well in the playoffs. He played great against Pittsburgh. He played good against New England. He kind of was rattled there at the end, didn't quite have the confidence, but I felt bad for him.
He didn't turn the ball over once in the playoffs. Not once.
Yeah. I mean, and so... But I think if you're Jacksonville, you have to. I don't think you have a choice. You can't squander or take a chance on having a defense this good.
Go to waste.
Because what's going to happen to them is what happened to Seattle. Everyone's going to want to get paid. Everyone's going to want to get paid, and you're not going to be able to pay everybody if you want to put together a team. That's what I love about salary cap, is that a hard salary cap like they have in the NFL, where it's like, everyone's going to want to get paid, and you have to decide who you want to pay or who you don't want to pay. Okay? Jalen Ramsey is going to want to be the highest paid corner in the league. Miles Jack is a really good young linebacker. He's going to want to get paid. Dante Fowler is going to want to get paid. Malik Jackson is going to want to get paid. Everyone's going to want to get paid, and you're going to have to decide in the near future what to do. And with Blake Bortles, let me rephrase that. You would have a much better shot at capitalizing on this young defense while it's still intact with someone else. With Kirk Cousins, with Alex Smith. I'm not sold yet on Nick Foles, but probably with Kirk Cousins or Alex Smith or Eli Manning, you'd have a much better shot than with Blake Bortles. And I think you have to take that chance.
Yeah, I do feel for Blake Bortles. I would wish him the best. He seems like that was kind of an underdog year for him.
So going in to the Minnesota-Philadelphia game, people were also talking about how Case Keenum had an opportunity to earn a lot of money. If he played well, he could make some money and cash out on his next contract. Doesn't play as well. Goes 28 for 48, 271, touchdown, 2 picks, 2 bad picks. And so now if you're Minnesota, you got Teddy Bridgewater waiting in the wings. You've had Sam Bradford all season. I mean, he's been hurt in and out of the lineup, but you have him on your roster as well. What do you do if you're Minnesota in the same kind of situation with a good defense? What do you do at your quarterback spot, the most important position in sports?
I think that Teddy Bridgewater is going to be their guy going forward. Case Keenum, the first pick he threw, I know he got brushed a little bit, and that might have impacted that throw. But if you look at the replay, it was a terrible thought anyway. Unless he was throwing that away, that was a terrible thought anyway. And I'm not saying that comes down to his whole season. He played a great season. He won he started 15 out of 16 games. They went 13-3. I just think that Teddy Bridgewater, it seems that he's the guy that they wanted to move forward in the future. Case Keenum might have proved his case to get somewhere in this league.
Case proved his case, dude.
Yeah, that was an unintentional pun. Look, it just comes natural. I don't know what to tell you. But I don't think he's their guy moving forward.
Yeah, I think you have to see what you have with Teddy. I mean, he obviously had this horrific knee injury, kept him out for so long. But you have to see what you got with him because he's here and he's healthy now and he wants to play. And so you have to see what you have with him. You can't just let him sit there and waste away the rest of his career. You have to put him out there and see what you got. I thought this for the entire season, and I thought that at some point it would come back to haunt them. It came back one game later than I thought it would. But what we just saw from Case Keenum was that he regressed to the mean. He went back to being what we already know that he is, which is a backup. And people are going to talk about how certain teams are going to be wanting to sign him and pay him, or that the Vikings might franchise tag him. That would be a huge mistake to pay him a huge contract, especially to bring him in to be a starter. Because what you saw right there, he regressed to the mean. Okay? He was playing out of his mind for like 8 weeks straight. Out of his mind, playing so well. And now you saw him come back down to earth, back to what he usually is. And what he is a backup. He's a backup. What he did this season is what backups are supposed to do. Come in and steady the ship. He did that. But that's exactly what he is. He's a backup. I would love him on my team as my backup. But that's what he is. I'm not franchise tagging him. I'm not giving him a $20 million a year contract. I'm just saying, if you want to come back up, I'll pay you $10 million a year to come be my backup. But he is not a starter. I've said it from the beginning. I stand by it. So interesting what's going on here. Obviously, Nick Foles is the one now who seems to be primed to get a big contract. And I would say a lot of the same for him. I mean, I don't know. He obviously has shown potential in the past in the league. He's a former Pro Bowler. Under certain systems has succeeded, but I'm the same way. I mean, he's had ample opportunities to start in the league and has not played well. So,
yeah, I think it's obvious that's Carson Wentz's team, and Nick Foles to be a starter, he's going to have to go somewhere that's not very good, and I don't know that he'll have a defense to back him up to win those games. But yeah, again, Nick Foles would be a great backup. Could be a starter in lots of different locations, but we all know that Eagles are moving forward with Carson Wentz.
This is the Sports Room, the sports show that actually talks about sports about 3/4 of the way through the show today. We wanted to end a little bit doing some NBA. Like I said in the open, big breaking news today was that Jason Kidd was fired from the Milwaukee Bucks. He's under 500, I believe, in his 4 seasons as the head coach. And from what I've read, in the situation, the scenario is that Giannis Antetokounmpo, their budding young superstar, was against this. That he wanted Coach Kidd to stay. He wanted him there, and in that sense, talking about your star player, your franchise centerpiece being unhappy about this move, that certainly is going to raise some eyebrows. So, Jason Kidd's fired. Derek, just or unjust?
I go a little unjust here. He's taking the Bucks to the playoffs. The only reason that I could justify it is they're sitting at the 8th seed in the East
currently,
and at this point, you feel like the Bucks should be a 4 or 5. I mean, you shouldn't have Miami, maybe Washington, but Miami, Indiana, and Philadelphia all ahead of you. I think it's a little premature, but I could see it going both ways. I would say unjust, especially if your star player was against it.
Absolutely. It's the same thing in football. When you have a star quarterback, you do whatever it takes to keep him happy. You just do, because without him, you got no shot. You got no shot. And without Giannis being happy in Milwaukee, you got no shot. No free agents. The same thing here in Salt Lake City. No free agent's going to think in their mind, you know where I want to play? Milwaukee. Let me head up to Wisconsin and freeze my butt off for 8 months of the year. Okay, no one is thinking that. And so I'm not saying that you couldn't fire your head coach if your star liked him, but you do need to communicate with him and let him know, look, this is what's happening, this is why. And I think, personally, in my opinion, they are 100%, I am 100% okay with this. If you look at their roster, the Bucs roster, with Giannis, Eric Bledsoe, Chris Middleton, Greg Monroe, the teams that are ahead of them, read me the teams that are ahead of them in the standings right now.
Boston, Toronto, Cleveland, Miami, Washington, Indiana, Philadelphia.
So they have a better roster than Indiana, probably than Washington and Philadelphia, in terms of star power. I don't know, I guess in terms of star power maybe, but in terms of depth of the starting lineup, because when you got the Wizards, you got John Wall and Brad Beal. Okay? Indiana, you got Oladipo. That's it. He's carrying the load. In Philadelphia, you got Embiid, really. Ben Simmons has cooled off a lot in the last month. I would know because I have him on my fantasy team. He's cooled off. And so in terms of maturity, in terms of experience and talent and length and whatever you want, shooting, the Milwaukee Bucks have they've got a better roster than Miami. Okay, they with that roster should be fourth in the East right now. And they're not. And over the span of Jason Kidd's tenure there, they're under 500. And I understand that at the beginning he was breaking it in. They drafted Giannis, or they brought him over from overseas or whatever, and they broke him in. And now he's this budding young star, or whatever. Okay, but NBA franchises and fans, sports franchises and fans of those franchises have every right to demand championships. College football is the same way. If you're not demanding championships, what are you demanding? What do you want to have? Do you realize is your deepest aspiration really to make the 8th seed and get swept by Boston?
The thing is, you're doing a great job.
It's the same way for the Jazz. It's like if your goal is not to win the title, and if you don't think that your coach is on the path to winning you a title, you have every right to axe him.
Absolutely.
And I understand that these are people who have jobs, and this is the job that they chose. You chose this. It's not our fault that you chose this lifestyle, that you wanted to be a coach. Coaches get fired all the time. And people are, everyone's going to talk about, he's a man, he's got a wife and kids and a family and stuff like that, and you feel bad when people lose their jobs? Yeah, I do. I feel bad when people lose their jobs. But you know what? Financially, he's fine. I'm not worried about his finances. Okay, financially, he's fine. If he's not fine, it's because he's an idiot, because he's made, probably tens of hundreds of millions of dollars in his career. Okay? So I'm not worried about his finances. Yeah, he lost his job. Okay, he's probably going to get another job. Okay? So, this is the lifestyle that coaches choose. You choose to put your head in the guillotine at all times. To deliver or to get axed. Okay? You chose this. We didn't make you do this. You chose this. And fans and franchises have every right to axe a coach if they don't think he's taking him to the promised land.
Absolutely, and it's clear right now that as the 8th seed in the East, probably not happening.
It's tough for Milwaukee. They have a good young core right now. They've been able to they've hit the jackpot with Giannis. They've traded for Eric Bledsoe, and they've done well with Chris Middleton and things like that. He's been hurt the last couple of years a little bit, but be interesting to see them under a new regime, under a new head coach, and see what they can do. Also of note, this over the weekend was the Cavs continue to get blown out by everything that has a heartbeat. Okay, they got blown out at home by Oklahoma City, who's been kind of struggling a little bit. They gave up 148 points or something like that.
148 to 124.
Let me tell you whose fault this is. I'm gonna explain why. You might laugh at me. Let me tell you whose fault this is. This is LeBron's fault.
LeBron James.
This is his fault. I'm gonna have Chase Sorensen in my Twitter mentions screaming at me. I have all kinds of LeBronites in my Twitter mentions screaming at me. This is LeBron's fault. You know why it's LeBron's fault? Because you are the unimpeded leader of the team. Okay, and you know what great leaders do? The best leaders in politics, in whatever you want. In sports, you know what they do? They take the blame when things go wrong, and they give out credit when things go right. And LeBron is doing the opposite. When things are going wrong, we need more players, man. We don't have enough good players out here. I'm out here all alone doing this. And when things are going right, he's like, they're in the finals. And a reporter asked him, what makes you think that you can come back and win the series? Oh, because I'm the best player in the world. That's what I mean. It's like when things are going good, he thinks it's all him. And when things are going wrong, he thinks it's everybody else around him.
They are sitting 4 games behind Toronto for the 2nd seed. Toronto's got DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry. like the Cavs are in trouble. This whole thing about I understand LeBron James gets to the NBA Finals every single year.
You guys got the doors, yeah?
Okay.
I understand that LeBron James gets to the finals every single year, but I do not think that this year is the same. They just look discombobulated all the way around. You're getting destroyed. You have no defense. You couldn't stop something that's so easy to stop. Gosh. I don't know. I just think the Cavs are in trouble. And like I said before, I think seeing the Warriors on the other side of that court is not helping. They just know that there's no way they're going to win.
When people want to argue that that LeBron's on his own, that he doesn't have enough help when they're playing the Warriors, I'm okay with that because the Warriors are so stacked that he would need another All-Star or two to compete with them. I get it. But Boston, they got Kyrie Irving. Who else on that team is going to be an All-Star? Nobody. Nobody else, and that's it.
Oh, it's the East, so maybe their starting lineup might.
Okay, but it's the same deal with Miami. Okay, who even plays for the Heat? Goran Dragic, I guess. Hassan Whiteside. Indiana, they got Oladipo doing it by himself. Does LeBron need more help to beat these teams? You know what I mean? There's no excuse for being third in the East. Because the East sucks. All the good players play in the West. Okay? And so, if you want to shed blame on the if you go into the Cavaliers locker room and are starting to point out blame, the very first finger goes to LeBron James. This is you. This is on you. You are the leader of this team. Okay? And that's what happens to leaders. Whenever under their jurisdiction, if things go wrong, it's your fault. Okay? It's not everybody else's fault. It's not because you don't have enough friends. Okay? In fact, you are the orchestrator of this team. You're the one that made him sign Tristan Thompson to an $88 million contract. You made him re-up for J.R. Smith. This was you. You did this.
Okay? All signs are pointing to LeBron James leaving. And I thought he would stay for a long time. But to me, all signs are pointing to him leaving. This looks like a year that's really on a landslide. Like it's getting away from him. And I think that they can feel it. And I agree with you that LeBron James, he's the first one to take credit in a good game, a good win, a good situation. But he does seem to be the last one taking credit when things are going south. A month or two ago, they beat the Knicks. He's posted on Instagram saying he's the king of Cleveland. He takes the full credit. He wants that on his shoulders. However, when things are bad, when do you hear him say like this one's on me? Yeah, he says that we got to do this, but you're right. He's asking for more players. They need this, they need that. This is one of the things that bugs me about somebody who claims to be such a big leader, is that he's literally doing exactly what you just said.
He's shedding the blame when things are going wrong. He's taking all the credit when things go right. And I'm not going to sit here and deny that LeBron is a generational player. There has never been a player that's been this close to Michael Jordan, I don't think. And he deserves it. With what he's accomplished in his career, with the way he plays, he deserves it. But as far as leadership goes, this is ridiculous that he's just passively taking this. I mean, like he's not taking any credit or excuse me, not taking any blame. He's just so quickly to point the finger at all these other things except for what he's doing because he thinks he's immortal.
So the Cavs are 27-18. If I had to ask you, maybe we could put this up on Twitter or something. If I had to ask you to put an amount of money that mattered to you out of the team to come out of the East, are you taking the Cleveland Cavaliers or are you taking the field? Just in the East. So you have
I'd take the field.
Toronto, Miami, Washington, basically one of those teams, or the Cavs.
I would take the field.
You would take the field over them right now?
Yes. When they traded away Kyrie Irving last year, I was of the opinion that they were better off because they got a talented scorer in return in Isaiah Thomas, and they had signed a couple guys that were solid defenders like Jay Crowder and Jeff Green. It's just not working. This completely new, the roster turnover maybe has an impact, but it's just not working. And Boston has kind of been slipping a little bit more, which makes me kind of hesitate a little bit more with that. But I say that more because I just don't trust this Cleveland team.
I would still take Cleveland. I think there's a lot of this year left to play out, and I think if you pin them up 7-game series, LeBron, I can't see him losing to the Celtics in a 7-game series, but it's a lot closer than it has been.
Over under 50 wins for the Heat, or for the Cavaliers
for the
end of the season.
Over.
I think I'd probably say over 2. But I'm just not confident. I mean, last year when this was happening, I knew in my heart that they would be fine. I just don't have that same confidence this time around. I don't know. Also, over the weekend, I guess this was this yesterday, maybe on Saturday night, Rockets beat the Warriors at home, a fully healthy and functioning Warriors team. How much stock do you give that win from the Rockets?
It's good. I think the Rockets are good. It's the same thing. There's a reason why they do a 7-game series in the NBA. And it's because the better team will win. And I know that the Rockets have beat the Warriors twice this year, but the Warriors are a better team. And in a 7-game series, they will win that series. Now, the Rockets are a good team, and I give them a lot of credit where credit is due. And I think that they could be, if they can stay where they're at, maybe add a couple pieces throughout the next couple years, they're going to be a force in the West when the Warriors start to dissemble. But as of right now, the Warriors are a better team, and in a 7-game series, they will win that series. In my opinion.
The Rockets are like a highly leveraged business. It's like leverage in finance is like, it has to do with debt. I'm not going to get really into it, but what you need to know is that when a business is really highly levered, it will either do well, it will either make the good times great, or it will make the bad times worse, basically. And what we saw on Saturday night, or whatever the game was, we saw how good the Rockets can be. We saw when things are great, they're really great. Okay, when they're out there, when they're shooting, they're flowing, they're shooting a lot of threes, and they're making a lot of them, they're dangerous. They're talented. They can score with anybody. But when they're not doing that, it's going to be ugly. You're going to get into Game 6 against the Spurs, and James Harden's going to score 13 points. That's what you get with the Rockets. And so can they sustain that over a 7-game series, like you're saying?
I don't think so.
Probably not. You got to beat Kevin Durant 4 times.
And here's the worst part about it is Clint Capella talking crap. When these guys that are talking in any sport, they are not winning. Jalen Ramsey just lost after saying they're going to win this, get to the Super Bowl and win the Super Bowl. He lost. Clint Capella is doing this now. It's like you're not going to. No, these guys don't win when they talk like this. They do it to, I think, pump themselves up, but they don't win. And I don't think the Warriors are going to allow them to win either.
Me neither. I mean, I view the Warriors the same way I view the Patriots in Alabama. It's just I can't see them losing. I can't see them losing, really. I think they're going to walk through this thing again, I feel like. I honestly do. I mean, I don't think the Thunder are going to be able to get together good enough. The Rockets are too inconsistent. The Warriors are just better. They're just still by far the best team. Every team in the league is scrambling to assemble a roster that can beat them, and no one can do it.
You know what I'm doing if I'm the NBA? I'm not scrambling to beat the Warriors. I'm planning for 4 years out.
For when they break up.
For when they break
up. For the Beatles break up.
I'm going to slide into that NBA's DMs and get that ship.
You're just waiting for that girl to get dumped.
I'm waiting for that guy.
And then the second she's done,
mess up. And they separate, and I'm sliding right in.
The second they're done, you're hopping on Twitter and sliding into those DMs.
He's too good of a guy right now. You're not getting in. Okay? He's a good goalie. But once that goalie makes a mistake, once that guy pulls it, I'm getting in there.
I can't blame you. That's a solid strategy.
But as of right now, like if you're the Jazz, for example, we were just talking about this, we can have a tank or try segment later. Just tank. Just get some guys and plan for 3, 4, 5 years out.
This is the Sports Room, the sports show that actually talks about sports. That's going to do it for us today. Thank you so much for listening, watching, downloading, however you're listening. Make sure you follow us on Twitter. We post polls. You can tweet us questions if you want, and we'll answer them. You can follow us on Twitter @_thesportsroom_. Same handle for Instagram. We also have a Facebook page. If you want to email us, you can also email us at thesportsroomtalkshow@gmail.com. That'll do it for us today. We'll see you on Friday. Hopefully Biggen will be back. We'll do some more NBA. We'll do a first little preview of the Super Bowl.
Might have we're gonna try to get Chase Sorensen back.
Mega Eagles fan Chase Sorensen hopefully will be on the show that day as well. So that is something that you will not want to miss if he is here. You will not want. We might see you grown men shedding tears. Is a very real possibility. Thank you for watching, listening. Talk to you guys soon.